Hello, beautiful people. I'm going to be reading Pride and Prejudice, Volume 3, Chapter 4. Let's start now. Elizabeth had been a good deal disappointed in not finding a letter from Jane on their first arrival at Lambton, and this disappointment had been renewed on each of the morning that had now been spent there. But on the third, her repaying was over, and her sister justified by the receipt of two letters from her at once. One, on one of which was marked that it had been written, the direction remarkably ill. They had just been preparing to walk as the letters came in, and her uncle and auntie, leaving her to enjoy them in quiet, set off by themselves. The one Miss sent must be the first attended to. It had been written 5 days ago. The beginning contained an account of all their little parties and engagements, with such news as the country afforded. But the latter half, which was dated a day before later, and written in evident agitation, gave more important intelligence. It was to this effect: since the writing the above, dearest Lizzie, something has occurred of a most unexpected and serious nature, but I am afraid of alarming you. Be assured that we are all well. What I have to say relates to poor Lydia. An express came at 12 last night, just as we were all gone to bed, from Colonel Foster to inform us that she was gone off to Scotland with one of his officers to own the truth, which with with Wickham. Imagine our surprise to Katie. However, it does not seem so wholly unexpected. Wholly, I am very, very sorry. So imprudent, a match on both sides, but I'm willing to hope the best, and his and that his character has been misunderstood, thoughtless, and indiscreet. I can easily believe him, but this steps, and let us rejoice over it, marks nothing bad at heart. His choice, disinterested at least, for he must know my father can give her nothing. Our poor mothers is sadly grieved. My father bears it better. How thankful am I that we never let them know what has been said against him. We must forget it ourselves. They were off Saturday night about 12, as is conjured, and were not missed till yesterday morning at night. The express was sent off directly. My dear Lizzie, they must have passed within 10 miles of us. Colonel Foster gave us reasons to expect him here soon. Lydia left a few lines for his wife, informing her of their intention. I must conclude, for I cannot be long from my poor mother. I am afraid you will not be able to make it out, but I hardly know what I have written. Without allowing herself time for consideration, and scarcely knowing what she felt, Elizabeth, on finishing this letter, instantly seized the other, and opening it with the utmost impatience, read as follows. It had been written a day later than the conclusion of the first. By this time, my dearest sister, you have received my hurried letter. I wish this may be more intelligible, but do not confine for our time. My head is so big wow that I cannot answer for being coherent. Dearest Lizzie, I hardly know what I would write, but I have bad news for you, and it cannot be delayed. Improvement as marriage between Mr. Wickham and our poor Lydia will be. We are now anxious to be assured it has taken place, for there is but too much reason to fear they are not gone to Scotland. Colonel Foster came yesterday, having left Brighton the day before, not many hours after the express, though Lydia's short letter to Mrs. F gave them to understand that they were going to Gresnard Green, and something was dropped by Jenny expressing his behavior that expressing his belief that W never intended to go there or to marry Lady at all, which was repeated to Colonel F, who instantly taking the alarm set off on B, intending to trace their routes. He did trace them easily to Clapham, but no further for on entering the place. They removed into the Hackney coach and dismissed the chase that brought them from Epsom. All that is known after this is that they were seen to continue the London road. I know not I know not what to think. After making every possible inquiry on on the side on that side London, Colonel F came on into Hertfordshire, anxiously renewing them at all the 10 plagues and at the inns in Burnett and Hartfield, but without any success. No such people had been seen to pass through. With the kindness concern, he came on to Longbourn and broke his apprehensions to us in a manner most creditable to his heart. I am sincerely grieved for him and Mrs. F, and but no one can throw any blame on him. Our distress, my dear Lizzie, is very great. My father and mother believe the worst, but I cannot think so ill of him. Many circumstances might make it more eligible for them to be married privately in a town that to pursue their first plan, and even if he could form such a design against a young woman of Lydia's connection, which is not likely, can I suppose her so lost to be everything impossible? I grieve to find, however, that Colonel F is not deposed to deposed to the, the, the pen upon their marriage. He shook his head when I expressed my hope and said he feared W was not a man to be trusted. My poor mother is really ill and keeps her room. Could she exert herself, it would be better, but this is not to be expected. And as to my father, I never in my life saw him so affected. Poor Kitty has anger for having concealed their attachment, but as it was a matter of confidence, and one cannot wonder. I am truly glad, dearest Lizzie, that you have been spared something of this distressing scene. But now, as the first shock is over, shall I own that I long for your return? I am not so selfish, however, as to press for it, if inconvenient, though. I take up my pen again to do what I have just told you I would not, and but coincidentally as such, that I cannot help earnestly begging you all to come here as soon as possible. I know my dear uncle and my aunt so well that I am not afraid of requesting it, though I have still something more to ask of the former. My father is going to London with Colonel Foster instantly to try to discover her. What he means to do, I am sure I know not, but his excessive distress will not allow him to pursue any measure in the best and safest way, and Colonel Foster is obliged to be at Brighton again tomorrow evening in such a accident. My uncle's advice and assistance would be everything in the world. He will immediately comprehend what I must feel, and I rely on upon his goodness. Oh, where is my uncle? Cried Elizabeth, darting from her seat as she finished the letter in eagerness to follow him without losing a moment of time so precious. But as she reached the door, it was opened by a servant, and Mr. Darcy appeared. Her pale face and impetuous manner made him start, and before he could recover himself enough to speak, she in whose mind was she in whose mind every idea was superseded by Lydia's situation, hastily exclaimed, I beg your pardon, but I must leave you. I must find Mr. Gardner this moment on business that I cannot be delayed. I have not an instant to lose. Good God, what is this matter? Cried he, with more feeling than politeness. Then recollecting himself, it will not disdain you a minute. Please let me or let the servant go after Mr. and Mrs. Gardner. You are not well enough. You cannot go yourself. Elizabeth hesitated, but her knees trembled under her, and she felt how little would be gained by interrupting to pursue them. Calling back the servant, therefore, she com- commissioned him, though in so breathless an accent as, as made her almost unintelligible, to fetch his master and mistress home instantly. On his quitting the room, she sat down, unable to support herself, and looking so miserably ill that it was impossible for Darcy to reach her or to restrain from saying, in a tone of gentleness and commiseration, let me call your maid. Is there nothing you could take to give you present relief? A glass of wine? Shall I get you wine? You are very ill. No, I thank you, she replied, endeavoring to recover herself. There's nothing the matter with me. I'm quite well. I am only distressed by some dreadful news which I have just received from Longbourn. She burst into tears as she alluded to it, and for a few minutes could not speak another word. Darcy, in wretched suspense, could only say something indistinctly of his concern, and observe her in compassionate silence. At length she spoke again. I have just had a letter from Jane with such dreadful news. It cannot be concealed from anyone. My younger sister has left all her friends, has eloped, has thrown herself into the power of Mr. Wickham's. They are gone off together from Bryston. You know him too well to doubt the rest. She has no money, no connection, nothing that can at- attempt tempt him to. She she's lost forever. Darcy was fixed in astonishment. When when I consider, she added in a yet more agitated voice, that I might have prevented it. I, who knew what he was, had I but explained some part of it only, some part of what I learned to my own family. Had his character been known, this could not have happened, but it's all too late now. I am grieved indeed, Darcy. Grief struck, but is it certain? Absolutely certain. Oh yes, they left Bryston together on Sunday evening and with Trace almost to London, but not beyond. They are certainly not gone to Scotland, and what has been done? What has been attempted to recover her? My father is gone to London, and Jane has written to beg my uncle's immediate assistance, and we shall be off, I hope in half an hour, but nothing can be done. I know very well nothing can be done. How is such a man to be worked on? How are they even to be discovered? I have not the smallest hope. It is every way horrible. Darcy shook his head in silence, signs. When my eyes were open to his real character, oh, had I known what I ought, or what I dared to do. But I knew not. I was afraid of doing too much. Wretch, mistake. Darcy made no answer. He seemed scarcely to hear her, and was walking up and down the room in earnest meditation, his brow contracted, his air gloomy. Elizabeth soon observed and instantly understood. Her power was shrinking, everything must shrink under a proof of family weakness, such an assurance of the deepest disgrace. She would neither wonder nor condemn, but the belief of his self consent brought nothing consolatory to her bosom, afforded no palliation of her distress. It was, on the contrary, exactly calculated to make her understand her own wishes, and never had she so honestly felt that she could have loved him as now, when all love must be vain, but self, though it will be imprudent, could not engross her. Lydia, the humiliation, the misery she was bringing on them all, soon swallowed up every private care, covering her face with her handkerchief. Elizabeth was soon lost to everything else, and after a pause of several minutes was only recalled to a sense of her situation by the voice of her companion, who in a manner which, though it spoke compassionate, spoke likewise restrained, said, I am afraid you have been long desiring any absence, none have I anything to plead in excuse of my stay, but real though unveiling concern, would to heaven that anything will be either said or done on my part that might offer consolation to such distress. But I will not torment you with vain wishes, which may seem purposely to ask for your thanks. This unfortunate affair will, I fear, prevent my sister having the pleasure of seeing you at Pemberley today. Oh yeah, be so kind as to apologize for us to Miss Darcy. Say that urgent business calls us. Say that agent business us calls us home immediately. Conceal the unhappy truth as long as it is possible. I know it cannot be long. He readily assured her of his security, again expressed his sorrow his sorrow for her distress, wish it's wish it's a happier conclusion than there was a present reason to hope, and leaving his compliment for her relation with only one serious parting look, went away. As he quitted the room, Elizabeth felt how improbable it was that they could ever see each other again on such terms of cordiality as had marked their several meetings in Derbyshire. Now she threw a retrospective glance over the whole of their acquaintance, so full of contradiction and variety, signed at the prevalences of those feelings which would now have promoted its continuance, and will formerly have rejoiced in its termination. If gratitude and esteem are good foundation of affection, Elizabeth's change of sentiment will be either palpable nor faulty. But if otherwise, if the regard springing from such resources is unreasonable or unnatural in comparison of what is so often described as arising on a first interview with its object, and even before two words have been exchanged, nothing can be said in her defense, except that she had been given somewhat of a trial to the latter method in the partiality for Wickham, and that its ill success might perhaps authorize her to seek the other less interesting mode of attachment. But that as it may, she saw him go with regret, and in this earlier example of what ladies in infirmary must produce found additional anguish as she reflected on that wretched business. Never since reading Jane's second letter had she entertained a hope of Wakeham's meaning to marry her. No one but Jane, she thought, could flatter her, could flatter herself with such an expectation. Surprise, the surprise was the least of her feelings of this development. While the contents of the first letter remained on her mind, she was all surprise, all aston all astonishment that Waking should marry a girl whom it was impossible he could marry for money, and how Lydia could ever have attached him and had appeared incomprehensible. But now it was all too natural for such an attachment as this. She might have significant charms, and though she did not suppose Lydia to be deliberately an engaging in an elopement without the intention of marriage, she had no difficulty in believing that neither her virtue nor her understanding would preserve her from falling an easy prey. She had never perceived what the regiment was in Hertfordshire, that Lydia had any partiality for him, but she was convinced that Lydia had wanted only encouragement to attach herself to anybody. Sometimes another had her favor as their attention raised them in her opinion. Her affections had been continuously fluctuating, but never without an object. The mischief of neglect and mistaken indulgence towards such a girl. Oh, how acutely did she now feel it! She was wild to be at home, to hear, to see, to be upon the spot, to share with Jane in the cares that must now fall wholly upon her. In a family so disarranged, a father absent, a mother incapable of exertion, and requiring a constant attendance, and though most persuaded that nothing could be done for Lydia, her uncle's interference seemed of the utmost importance, and till he entered the room the misery of her impatience was severe. Mr. and Mrs. Gardiner had hurried back in alarm, supposing by the servant's account that their niece was taken sadly ill, but justifying them instantly on that head. She eagerly communicated the cause of their summons, reading the two letters aloud, and dwelling on the postscript of the lease with the trembling energy. Though Lydia had never been a favorite with them, Mr. and Mrs. Though Lydia had never been a favorite with them, Mr. and Mrs. Gardiner could not but be deeply affected, not Lydia only, but all were concerned in it, and after first exclamations of surprise and horror, Mr. Gardiner readily promised every assistance in his power. Elizabeth, though expecting no less, thanked them with tears of gratitude, and all three being act- actuated, actuated by one spirit, everything relating to their journey was speedily settled. They were to be off as soon as possible. But what is to be done about Pemberley? Cried Mrs. Gardiner. John told us Mr. Darcy was here when you sent for us. Was it so? Yes, I told him we should not be able to keep our engagement. That is all settled. That is all settled, repeated the other as she ran into her room to prepare. And are they upon such trend as for her to disclose the real truth? Oh, that I knew how it was. But wishes were vain, or at best could serve only to amuse her in the hurry and confusion of the following hour. Had Elizabeth been at lecture to be idle, she would have remained certain that all employment was impossible to one so wretched as herself. But she had her share of business, as well as her aunt, and among the rest there were notes to be written to all their friends in Lambton, with false excuses for their certain dispatcher. An hour, however, saw the whole completed, and Mr. Gardiner, meanwhile having settled his account at inn, meanwhile having settled his account at the inn, nothing remained to be done but to go. And Elizabeth, after all the misery of the morning, found herself in a shorter space of time than she could have supposed, seated in the carriage and on the road to Longbourn. I'm done. Oh, I'm so proud of myself reading this. Yeah, I'm very proud. I'm gonna read this tomorrow. I'm gonna read the next chapter tomorrow. And I'm almost done. When I'm done reading this, I'm gonna watch the movie. Yeah, I'm gonna watch the wait, let me see. Pride and Prejudice. The 2005 one. Yeah, with like I'm gonna watch Pride and Prejudice, the 2005 one after reading this. Yeah, cause like I know it's gonna be good now that I know a picture of the scene. It's gonna be good when I watch the. I've watched like the movie, but I haven't read the book, so I decided to read the book. Like now when I'm done reading it, I'm gonna be done very soon. Yeah, when I'm done reading it, I am gonna I'm gonna watch the movie. Yeah. Thank you, and I'm so proud of myself. I'm gonna read the next chapter tomorrow. Yeah, I am. Thank you, and have a nice day. Bye bye.